Oscars 2026 nomination predictions, October 2025. Make sure you subscribe. Welcome everybody to another round of the Oscar nomination predictions, just in the top 8 categories for the month of October of 2025, as we are about to enter into the season of Halloween, well, as will actually be coming this Friday, and of course, the end of daylight savings time, when we begin next week with regular time, means pitch blackness around 5 o'clock. We begin the month of November, and obviously Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade season is upon us when we get to November 1st. And before we do all that excitement fun of let's have an American parade, or anything else you have planned before Black Friday shopping and before the release of some of the big major movies, we have to do another round of these predictions, of course, for the month of October in the top 8 categories. Out of all the months, specifically for at least prior to the final Oscar nomination predictions, October is usually the quiet month. Like, we already had some film festivals like the New York Film Festival, which had shown some big major movies, most notably a surprise screening of Marty Supreme, and closing it off with Bradley Cooper's Is This Thing On? But there have been, of course, a couple of the movies that have been released that are probably either not going to do an Oscar player, like Anemone, or maybe just acting nominations like The Smashing Machine. And then you have some films that might just don't do nothing, like After the Hunt, maybe Kiss of the Spider-Woman, maybe House of Dynamite. You had some limited releases like If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, and Richard Linklater's movies. He's Blue Moon and All Vogue. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, and obviously there have been some movies that had gotten better receptions since their festival reactions, like Frankenstein and Begonia. But we all know we are coming into the Wicked for Good month when we get into the month of November, and it's either going to go one way or the other. But that will depend, not based on the Brazilian reactions when it has its premiere in that country at the beginning of this upcoming month, but specifically when it officially comes out on November 21st, to see if it will be on par or even better than the first Wicked. So with that, no major introductions that we will have. Obviously, with the other big releases like Hamnet will finally get released, Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery will get its theatrical run. And then a couple of other films like Jay Kelly, Christie, I thought Train Dreams will have its official release as well, after its limited theatrical run, and a couple of other independent international films like Arco and Left-Handed Girl, and then of course we have Zootopia 2. So we still got a couple of movies, mainly the big two ones being Wicked for Good and Hamnet. So let's get into the nomination predictions, and I gotta say, I have changed everything in all the top 8 categories. For adapted screenplay, I have Begonia, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery, and Wicked for Good. So the one I did took out was No Other Choice. And there is kind of a potential reason I did this, because I don't have it getting anywhere in the top 8 anymore right now for this video. It still is a possibility, especially winning the People's International Choice at TIFF, but it just makes it a little bit more concerning, not specifically that winning position, but since they have now split those People's Choice Awards, now kind of confusing. If it did win the People's Choice Award over Hamnet, then I would have put it at number 1 for adapted screenplay. We'll see how Train Dreams does when it gets its better official release on Netflix. Now, Begonia has gotten a lot of better reviews when the movie has come out, and a lot of people have been enjoying the message, although the movie is maybe kind of the bane of my existence. I won't say why. But at the moment, I feel like with just being... I know a lot of people would just immediately say One Battle After Another, but there is a big reason I think I have Hamnet as the frontrunner for the Oscar for Best Picture until when the movie comes out. For original screenplay, I have It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Weapons. I am putting Weapons in here. Now, you might be wondering why I'm putting Weapons in original screenplay, Because you would think, oh, am I going with the obvious choice in the next category? But honestly, no. I'll explain that a little bit later when we get to the next category, but I just don't know what the fifth slot's going to be. This is like almost like the fourth year in a row no, wait, 2, 3. Yeah, this would be the fourth year in a row where we would know what the top 4 are, but what is that fifth slot? Like, okay, you can say like 2022, all of them were picture nominees, but Triangle of Sadness didn't have a lot of screenplay precursors compared to like when you also looked at After Sun, for an example. And then in 23, we knew what the 4 were with Anatomy of Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, and Past Lives, and it ended up being May, December. And then last year, we knew it was Honora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, and The Substance, and the 5th one ended up becoming September 5. That's what I feel like at the moment. It's like we know the 4, but what is that 5th one? And could go to many options. Like, is this thing on? Could come back. A lot of people didn't enjoy it, but some say it might not just be an Oscar player, even though it has Bradley Cooper's name all over it. For a bit, I actually did had If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You on this list. And it would a little bit make more sense. But since I don't have Rose Byrne heads up in for Best Actress, I had to leave her out on this. The Secret Agent is a bit of a possibility, and there is a reason why I did that. Kind of almost have it almost as a fifth slot. Now, if Left-Handed Girl is nominated for International Feature, don't be surprised if this gets into the fifth slot, because, of course, this would be a post-win nomination for Sean Baker, as he is a co-writer on the film. Sorry Baby, it's guaranteed going to be an Independent Spirit Awards favorite, maybe a Critics' Choice nomination. I don't know if it's eligible for Writers Guild. It's kind of tough to figure out what is eligible and ineligible for WGA, unless if you knew some potential filmmakers that are. Like, I think we are agreeing that Hamnet might be ineligible, because we know Nomadland wasn't. So if Chloe Zhao is not a member of the Writers Guild, like she did with Hamnet, I think with Nomadland, then Hamnet would definitely be ineligible for the Writers Guild. For Supporting Actress, I have Elle Fanning in Sentimental Value, Ariana Grande in her lead performance in Wicked for Good, Igna Isabadato Lilius, in Sentimental Value, Gwyneth Paltrow in Marty Supreme, and Tiana Taylor in One Battle After Another. So after a little bit of a massive changement when it came to One Battle After Another's campaigning, we'll get to that when we get to Best Actress. That's kind of good news for Tiana Taylor to actually get in. Now, I know that she's almost like I heard she's like in the beginning portion, but a lot of people are comparing her presence to Mahershala Ali's presence in Moonlight. But the difference is Mahershala Ali did win the Oscar for Moonlight. And if like One Battle After Another is a Best Picture frontrunner, maybe. But it's just like right now we are waiting for the hype for Ariana Grande. Would she sweep for her lead performance? We'll have to wait and see. But obviously the Sentimental Value ladies, like, it is guaranteed going to be the movie that will get the double nomination for the Supporting Actress category. I did originally for Marty Supreme, I did had Odessa Azion on this lineup, because from all the people that went to that surprise screening in Marty Supreme, including the Oscar expert and Brother Bro, they stated that Azion was the standout of the supporting cast members. But the thing is, if there is a big, massive Best Picture movie that, even though there is a performance that might be more of a standout in the supporting cast, they might go with a veteran one. And the best example for me would be with Belfast, when even though Katrina Balfe was nominated everywhere throughout the season prior to the Oscars, and although she wasn't big in the movie industry, but a lot of people know her in the television side with Outlander, the Oscars still went with the veteran one with Judi Dench over Katrina Balfe. And that's the reason why I have Paltrow over Azion. Granted, you could say like it could be an Everything Everywhere All at Once scenario where Jamie Lee Curtis got the recognition, but Stephanie Hsu got also nominated at SAG and ended up getting the Oscar nomination. I did end up having taken Wumi Masako out for Sinners, which is not a really good thing. And this is where the reason why I have Weapons in Original Screenplay, but I don't have Amy Madigan in for Supporting Actress. It's just that I could just see, like, I feel like it is snubbable. Like, it is very snubbable because Obviously, Warner Brothers has 2 other movies that they have high priority ties. I would say Amy Madigan would have gotten in for Weapons for supporting actress if Weapons would be in for Best Picture, but it's kind of not. And then I had a feeling it's like, Weapons feels like it's going to be like the May-December route. And it's almost like, would Amy Madigan be the Charles Melton of this season, where she gets all the critic wins, gets Globe and Critics' Choice, but Miss BAFTA Long List and Miss SAG? Because Charles Melton did that. He won a lot of critic wins, the BAFTA Long List, Miss SAG, failed to get the Oscar nomination. Same thing with his co-stars, Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman, but May-December still got that random 5th slot in original screenplay. And that's the reason I have Weapons as like the May-December of the Oscars, where although Amy Madigan would be the one nomination everyone would say was snubbable, it will still be nominated in original screenplay. Granted, it will also most likely show up in makeup and hairstyling, but I'm just specifically saying this in the top 8 alone. For supporting actor, I have Jonathan Bailey in Wicked for Good, Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another, Paul Mescal in his lead performance in Hamnet, Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård in Sentimental Value. The big thing is, Focus Features did do it. They are campaigning Mescal in supporting for his lead performance. And you know what that means? Basically, if you're a lead performance going supporting, especially in this category, you're basically going to sweep the entire season. Although some people think Sean Penn and Stellan Skarsgård have a chance, but when that happens, when a lead performance is category fraud into supporting, they win all the time. They sweep the entire season. I mean, look at Mahershala Ali in Green Book, Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Daniel Kaluuya in Judas and the Black Messiah, and just last year with Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain. Even in the supporting actress category, like with Zoe Saldana and Emilia Perez, and even go all the way back to like Alicia Vikander, the Danish Girl, Jennifer Connelly in A Beautiful Mind, although there were some places where she went leading, and same thing with Vikander, the Danish Girl, and Marcia Gay Harden in Pollock. So basically, if you're a lead performance that is going supporting, you basically are going to be sweeping throughout the season. So even though One Battle After Another may be more of a bigger Best Picture candidate, so is Hamnet. And because the thing is, Mescal is easily going to win at BAFTA. He's guaranteed going to take the BAFTA. And probably the Golden Globe. It's just like, Critics' Choice is coming first, so they could go something different. And Skarsgård might be a SAG favorite. It's just really depending on the timing of each of the votings. But as we have seen in like I just mentioned in the recent years in supporting actor, where we've seen at least 4 lead performances sweeping supporting actor that season in recent years, and Mescal kind of does it. It's going to be like, although Penn might have a shot to win his 3rd, or Stellan Skarsgård for a career opportunity, but if you go support, if you're a lead performance going supporting, especially in supporting actor, and you basically got the entire season. You got everything. So that's basically, this race is over. Now, Bailey is just like right now on the edge, but I did really am considering putting back Miles Canton in Sinners. I think I had him last month, but I'm not really sure. With the rise of Frankenstein getting a little bit of better reviews, Jacob Elordi has been brought up, but I would say this. I don't think it won't happen, because the thing is, if Bill Skarsgård did not get nominated for last year for Nosferatu, then I don't think Jacob Elordi would not make it in as Frankenstein's monster. So, like, if Bill Skarsgård couldn't get in for Nosferatu, then I think Jacob Elordi doesn't. Now, granted, Nosferatu was a pretty late release date, unlike Frankenstein when it had some film festival runs. It's just like, Elordi will most likely make BAFTA because he is British. It's just that I feel like if Skarsgård didn't get in for his performance as the titular character, I don't think Elordi would not make it in as Frankenstein's monster. For Best Actress, I have Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked for Good. I'm jumping on this one, Kate Hudson in Song Sun Blue. I hate that title. I just don't like that title. That just, that's more of a tongue twister. Renate Reinsvang in Sentimental Value, and Emily Stone in Begonia. So, basically, let's just talk about the Kate Hudson thing, because obviously, Song Sun Blue, this is kind of like a very unknown, like Neil Diamond or some other woman biopic with Hugh Jackman playing Neil Diamond, which I'm surprised he's not been talked about it's just Focus is like hearing that Focus is just going to campaign her specifically. And looking at the subject, and this is what Oscar experts said, and Brother Brothers talked about in their acting nomination predictions video just a week or so ago. Basically, she would have a lot of crying scenes. And this could potentially give her long overdue another Oscar nomination after Almost Famous. Like, obviously there was no way in hell she was getting in for music. Probably the movie she would have gotten close in recent years would have been Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. But that's with a lot of majority of the cast also being in consideration as well. Specifically Janelle Monáe. So this could be the one, like, the weird nomination. Like, the one, obviously, the one acting nomination where... Because there's always that one film that just gets in for acting nominations and nothing else. Like, The Apprentice last year, although there were some good reviews. But I go back to, like, Naiad, for an example. And this could have happened with a couple of other candidates, like Christie with Sydney Sweeney, or The Testament of Anne Lee with Amanda Seyfried. Maybe Rose Byrne does it for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And then, like, obviously now, it just, like, feels like it does have... Focus is really campaigning on Hudson in that, even though they already have two other candidates in this category that are most likely to get in, especially Jessie Buckley. I do think Emily Stone will make it down, obviously, especially as I stated, the reviews of the film have gotten a lot better. And I did have Chase Infinity here for One Battle After Another at one point when they announced she was campaigning and leading. But that was back when I was thinking, okay, is it the Best Picture frontrunner? At the moment, I could see her making some places, but I don't think she will make it as far as Globes or Critics' Choice, because SAG is not going to happen. I could see her getting BAFTA longlisted, but obviously the BAFTA nominations are not going to help us, of course, because their nominations will be announced after the Oscars. And then now let's talk about, obviously, many people are now saying, including Oscar experts saying that this race is over, it's Buckley. But you gotta hold your horses on saying those comments like that. Because you can't say something like that and say, Buckley's, like, this race is over. Buckley has the Oscar. But you can't say that at the moment until Wicked for Good is released. Because Cynthia Erivo is the threat right now. We are getting closer to the release of one of the biggest movies at the end of the year, and probably a massive big threat, because Erivo could potentially get some wins. Now, this is kind of more based on the precursor award ceremonies prior to the Oscars. Obviously, I could see, like, Erivo might take Critics' Choice, because remember they gave John M. Chu last year for director, so I would not be surprised about that. But then again, Critics' Choice are trying to be Oscar predictors. But they did went with, like, Demi Moore in Best Actress in The Substance for original screenplay last year. So, yeah, that's another thing. And they gave Nora Best Picture, but nothing else. So there are sometimes they have gotten incorrectly at the Oscars. So they can do something like that because they're first. Obviously, both of them are going to win their respective Globes, with Erivo with the Musical or Comedy Globe and Buckley with the Drama Globe. It will all depend, I would say, is on BAFTA. Now, I could see, like, SAG going with Cynthia Erivo, but BAFTA is going to be the one I think will determine who's going to win the Oscar, as we've seen with the last 2 years. And also, it's also because of the timing of the SAG Awards this year, with right now, it's scheduled, I believe, on March 1st, and 4 days after that, Oscar final voting will be closed. So by the time the SAG Awards would be over, a majority of the Oscar voters would already have finished their final voting. And they are obviously now have to required to watch everything this year, for the first time ever, of course. So it depends on what the date of the BAFTA ceremony is. I don't know which date is the BAFTA ceremony, but if it happens sometime in between, like, weeks before SAG or so, then whoever wins the BAFTA will go on to win the Oscar. Because that's what happened with Emily Stone, with Poor Things, and Mikey Madison. And the SAG wins for Lily Gladstone and Demi Moore were a little bit too late because voting was already over. Especially with Honora last year when it had that PGA and DGA double win during, like, 2 weeks before Oscar voting was closing. I would still say Buckley will have the shot to win the Oscar, but the BAFTA, but Erivo is also British as well. You got to keep in mind on that. Whoever wins the BAFTA will go on to win the Oscar. like, I feel like Arriva has more of a shot of winning at BAFTA more so than Ariana Grande. Like, if Grande was British, then they would have gone with her. But we have two big British here, and I think Buckley would most likely get the BAFTA because she had been nominated twice before with Wild Rose and The Lost Daughter when Arriva was only been nominated for the first Wicked. She didn't even make it for Harriet. Buckley took her position on that. It's just like you have two British ladies fighting it out for the BAFTA, and I think with Hammond being such a big BAFTA awards bait movie, I feel like Buckley would go on to take the BAFTA and get the Oscar. But if Arrivo takes BAFTA, it would be over. So, but this is just before the movie is released. And I'm not saying this like she would get the Oscar based on the reactions when it premieres in Brazil. I'm actually going to not change any of my positions for Wicked for Good until when the movie comes out officially. Not based on the Brazil's reaction or based on early screenings. When the movie comes out. For Best Actor, I have Timothée Chalamet and Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another, Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent, so all of you Brazilians can celebrate it in the comments of me doing that prediction, and Jesse Plemons in Begonia. So Marty Supreme had the surprise screening, and it's basically, it almost looks like, without the major reviews yet, and just based on the screening, this could actually be Chalamet's time. He could actually legit sweep the season. Now, I know some people would say One Battle After Another could still take DiCaprio a second win for this if the movie is winning Best Picture, but I will talk more about that when we get to the last category of who I think is our picture frontrunner. I know a lot of people are not going with Michael B. Jordan, but I feel more confident with him when you look at some of the competitions here because, I mean, yeah, Germany Allen White still could be a possibility, even though the movie has been very mixed by critics. A lot of people are now jumping on Ethan Hawke and Blue Moon, but I don't know if it's because since it's only going to be representing for the movie itself, that could be probably the biggest issue for Hawke to miss just because he's the only representative for that movie. That could also be the same thing with Silence on Blue if they just only go with Kate Hudson. I did at one point had Lee Byung-hun in No Other Choice in here. And it is still a possibility because he will most likely get the Comedy or Musical Globe nomination, but if he doesn't and misses BAFTA longlist, then he will not happen. Same thing with Wagner Moura. Now, he will guarantee get in the Motion Picture Actor in a Motion Picture Drama Globe, and he would actually be, I would say, in competition with Michael B. Jordan for the Drama Globe. But if he misses BAFTA long, but then again, Fernando Torres, the BAFTAs really didn't took much I'm Still Here in all the other categories last year. But like, if Wagner loses the Drama Globe and misses the BAFTA long list, then I will not be predicting him. But I am predicting him in here. And if, like, I can almost see a weird scenario of The Secret Agent misses the Oscar shortlist for international, yet he still makes it in, because this has happened before, like Marion Cotillard in 2 Days, 1 Night and Isabelle Huppert in Elle, where both of their films they starred in missed the Oscar shortlist for international feature, but yet they still got nominated. So Wagner Moura could actually still get in for Best Actor without the film not making the shortlist. And Plemons, I haven't put him in here now. Especially where I have been going a little bit more towards Begonia a bit, especially with the better reviews have been coming out. So yeah, even though there are some potential awards-bait candidates like Dwayne Johnson and The Smashing Machine, maybe Joel Edgerton could jump into it if Train Dreams is going to be more of a bigger player than we think, other than Indie Spirits, even though it's from the same people behind Sing Sing, but Netflix is not really going towards that level. For Best Director, I have Chloe Zhao for Hamnet, Jafar Panahi for It Was Just an Accident, Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme, Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another, and John M. Chu for Wicked for Good. So not only last month, I not also took Joachim Trier out, but for this month, I have also taken Ryan Coogler out. Now, here's the thing. I've seen some people have been predicting both Trier and Panahi to get in, and both Coogler and PTA to get in. But here's the thing. The thing about it is, if you have looked at the Oscars history in the director category, besides from the Weinstein years, if you're not Harvey Weinstein studio to be precise, even though Netflix feels like it is for the Oscar baitness, It is very rare in this category to have two films from the same studio to get in for Best Director. It has not happened, like, if you're not, like, counting any Weinstein years, like 2002 for an example. I don't know when was the last time a studio had two of their films in the Best Director category. And you don't see that. You don't see that a lot. Let's recap of this decade so far. Another Round, Neon, Mank, Netflix, Minari, A24, Nomadland, Searchlight, and Promising Young Woman, Warner Brothers. 2021, Belfast, Focus Features, Drive My Car, Janus Films, Licorice Pizza, MGM, The Power of the Dog, Netflix, West Side Story, 20th Century Studios. 2022, The Banshees of Inisherin, Searchlight, Everything Everywhere All at Once, A24, The Fabelmans, Universal, Tar, Focus Features, Triangle of Sadness, Neon. 2023, Anatomy of a Fall, Neon, on Killers of the Flower Moon, Apple, Oppenheimer, Universal, Poor Things, Searchlight Pictures, and The Zone of Interest, A24. And then last year for 2024, Anora, Neon, The Brutalist, A24, A Complete Unknown, Searchlight, Emilia Perez, Netflix, and The Substance, Mubi. It's always one film per studio that usually gets in this, and that's one of the cases I have. Hamnet, Focus Features, It Was Just an Accident, Neon, Marty Supreme, A24, One Battle After Another, Warner Brothers, Wicked for Good, Universal Pictures. So, if it's not like Wicked for Good, I would say it would have to be the next place for a one movie per studio in this category. I would say the next one would have to be in, if it's not Ryan Coogler or Joachim Trier, if they snubbed like John M. Chu or Josh Safdie, it would be Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein, or James Cameron for Avatar, Fire and Ash. But the latter of which all depends on how that movie does. Not by Globes or Critics' Choice nominations or early screenings. It all depends when the movie comes out in December. So even if he gets nominated Globes and Critics' Choice, it's not going to matter. It's all going to be more of a wait and see when that movie comes out. If Avatar ends up becoming better than the first two, even though I don't think so, or it could just be on the same levels as the three films, he will not happen in Best Director. But if it ends up becoming like one of the best films of the year, or like a massive improvement to the first two, then he could make it. But I would say if there's anyone right now that would be ahead of Coogler, Trier, and even Yorgos Lanthimos, if it's not from the same studio, it would be Del Toro for Frankenstein. And I know it seems odd when I did that little history thing, but it is kind of true. They don't usually nominate two movies from the same studio just in Best Director alone. It can happen in other categories like Best Picture, but usually two, the acting categories and the screenplay ones, but it's not usually director they do that. It's almost like, it's not really a one film per studio rule, it just feels like that when you look at the nominations. And because we know, obviously, Focus is going to go with Hamnet because Chloe Zhao is the top female pick. Warner Brothers is easily going to go with One Battle After Another here because Paul Thomas Anderson has that narrative. Neon's probably going to go in director here. It Was Just an Accident because of the Palme d'Or connection. A24, you kind of have Marty Supreme in that, especially if I'm correct. Is Marty Supreme right now over 3 hours or something like that? Is that what the length has been? I'm not really sure. It doesn't say. 149 minutes. So it's almost a little over 2 hours or so. Almost close to 2.5 hours. So a movie length like that, same thing with One Battle After Another, that kind of makes sense. It just really depends on how Wicked for Good does, and just, like, if it becomes, like, very over-nominated. Like, I would only take him out depending on how the reactions go to the film. So, even after the reactions to Brazil and early screenings, I'm going to keep John M. Chu in here until the movie comes out. And although Paul Thomas Anderson, many people think he could actually win, like I talked about last month, Chloe Zhao could be the one filmmaker to actually win twice in the same decade, as I talked about in the September predictions, why she makes the most sense. Now, I don't think she would sweep the season. She is guaranteed going to win BAFTA, because Hamnet's definitely going to be a big BAFTAs night over there. And she can actually win the Golden Globe. I could see, like, either Paul Thomas Anderson taking DGA, and if they do go in for Wicked for Good again at Critics' Choice, they could give John M. Chu again, or give it to Paul Thomas Anderson. So it's like, without the Wicked for Good reactions, I would say it's between those three for the Oscar, and right now I feel like Zhao kind of makes the most sense at glance. For Best Picture, I have Avatar, Fire and Ash, The Bane of My Existence, Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Wicked for Good. So what I had in here last month were No Other Choice and Is This Thing On, which they were kind of down to the lower tier candidates at the moment. So I brought Begonia back in my lineup, as it has gotten a lot of better reviews than it has been. And the reason I'm saying it's the bane of my existence is not because I don't like the movie or anything. I've not seen it. There was something about the movie I can't really talk about. It's just kind of like, I don't know if this would be a blessing or a curse, but I can't really go into it. That might be for a video for like post-award season. I was very hesitant to go with Del Toro's Frankenstein here, because it feels like I kind of have mentioned this, and hopefully I can do this when the Awards Expert app does starting doing polls. I would ask the question, is Netflix being the studio version of Harvey Weinstein, where they're just doing all the Oscar baitness instead of going with their most acclaimed film they had released? When you look at this decade, obviously, I do agree The Trial of the Chicago 7 was the best film of 2020, in my personal opinion. That was my favorite one, and out of the picture nominees. But they really had to go all in on Mank, even though there were some good performances and good technical aspects, but Best Picture, no. The Power of the Dog, that's fine, I guess. It did make my top 10 of the year, just at the 10th slot, so I don't mind that one. Great performances and great script, so that was a good one. But then for 2022, I wasn't big on All Quiet on the Western Front. I mean, I know a lot of people do like it, but I don't. I find it a bit overrated. I mean, I would have preferred Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery or Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio over All Quiet. And then 2023, they went with Maestro. I don't get it. I know a lot of people said it should have been May, December, but I also found that movie overrated. For me, Netflix should have gone with what I think was the best Oscar-nominated film they did that was nominated for 2023. Should have been Society of the Snow. And then last year, of course, they went with all in on Emilia Perez and didn't care anything else. Like, the only other movie was like Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Must Fall, but they were only the North American distributors because they didn't really distribute it in the UK, of course, which obviously was my number 2 of that year behind Dune Part 2. But, like, they couldn't have done anything else like Hitman, for an example. And they just went all in on Emilia Perez. Now, for this year, there are so many Oscar baitness they have with Frankenstein, J. Kelly, A House of Dynamite. I don't know what else they had, but like maybe Richard Linklater's Noel Vogue. I know some people are thinking K-pop Demon Hunters, but the thing about it is it's also technically a Sony movie, so it's kind of a bit of confusing of which distributor studio has the campaigning management for that film. Like, Train Dreams has been considered the best film from Netflix of the year for those who have seen the film before it comes out, but they're not going to go into it. If Sing Sing was nominated for Best Picture last year, then Train Dreams would have made sense to get in for Picture, Actor for Joel Edgerton, and Adapted Screenplay, but it's just Netflix is not really thinking about that. Obviously, Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery, that's going to be like Glass Onion, where it does well at the Golden Globes and gets a PGA nomination, but doesn't make it for Picture. It would just be an Adapted Screenplay nomination. So, and then Frankenstein has been getting its theatrical runs, and before it hits on Netflix next month, it's gotten a lot of better reviews than its reception at the festivals. And this happens sometimes where, this is also the same thing with Begonia as well, where After when a movie's, like, sometimes festival reactions would end up becoming amazing, but when it comes out, a lot of critics would not be assumed by it. That could be the similar thing with Amelia Perez. And then with Frankenstein and Begonia, they were not that praised at their festivals, even though Frankenstein did place second at TIFF. Both of them gotten better reviews with all the theatrical limited releases they've been getting, and Begonia does officially get a full wide release on Halloween. So yeah, I do think because since there have been both of them getting better reviews than their film festival reactions, I do think they are going to be in here regardless. I am more confident now in Marty Supreme a bit after its screener and hit. So there is a reason you might have noticed I have basically Hamnet not just as the #1 candidate in Best Picture, but basically everything in #1 in the top 8 categories. And here's the thing. Yes, it does have a lot of Oscar baitness to it. And it also really depends on how the timing of the voting will be. But Hamnet basically has almost all the winners of Oscar bait that it does. And I know some people would throw that off a bit, but there are many reasons because of why Hamnet could actually win everything in the top 8. Adapted screenplay because of the People's Choice Award winner at TIFF, and most of the time if you win People's Choice at TIFF, you're either usually a top 2 or a top frontrunner in your respective screenplay category. With Paul Mescal going supporting actor for his lead performance. As I've talked about when we did supporting actor, I mentioned all the recent supporting actor winners of all of them being lead performances that sweep the supporting category. Actress, that could be the massive battle, but I think with Buckley would take the BAFTA, that would get her to the Oscar win because the SAG ceremony is 4 days before Oscar voting closes. So that makes sense. And I mentioned Zhao could be the filmmaker to win twice in the same decade. Like Robert Wise, Joseph L. Mankiewicz, Steven Spielberg, Oliver Stone, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, and Alfonso Cuarón. Like, she could be the first filmmaker not only to win, female filmmaker to win twice, but twice in the same decade, and she makes the most sense. And obviously, with Steven Spielberg being a producer on this film, and would actually give him an overdue narrative of a Best Picture overdue Oscar for his second win in this category, since he got robbed for a Shakespearean-themed movie by Harvey Weinstein. This could potentially have him a shot of winning a movie for producing a Shakespearean-themed movie. And that is kind of hilarious, but that would give him a long overdue second Best Picture Oscar he needed after he was robbed from Saving Private Ryan for many people. And even it would also give Sam Mendes his second Oscar as well, after he didn't win for directing for 1917. So yeah, basically Hamnet is basically a movie where it can actually win everything in the top 8 categories. Now, I have not mentioned anything about the technical categories or even the new casting category. I haven't done those predictions yet. I will probably start doing that, at least with production design, costume design, and film editing when we get to December. And then the rest when the shortlist comes out, including the new casting category. Like, yeah, it might change a bit depending on how audience feel about the movie or general critics. But with all the Oscar baitness it has when it comes to winning precursor awards and looking at some history about these wins, other wins in the Oscars history, it does make sense why Hamnet could actually be the Oscar frontrunner for Best Picture. Unless it would just be like a whole British thing and just the BAFTAs are not going to mean anything and one battle after another just takes the Oscar, or even Wicked for Good, if it does be a Best Picture threat to Paul Thomas Anderson and Chloe Zhao. We'll just have to wait and see for that. So yeah, that kind of wraps up my Oscar nomination predictions for the month of October of 2025. It's going to be a little complicated to do the November predictions, if I'm correct, because I would have to immediately do it after Thanksgiving, I would say, or film the predictions on Thanksgiving Day. Obviously not like in the morning, because I would be watching the Macy's Parade, but like either late afternoon or early evening, and then just get it ready before November 30th. So with that said, if you're new to the channel, like I said, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see where Wicked for Good will be when we come back in the end of November.